Garnier.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Rather like the Honourable Member for East Worthing, I shall be recycling a speech I made in the second reading of this very important debate. But it's something I feel incredibly strongly about, Madam Deputy Speaker, that I felt that it was worth driving a 300 miles round trip to come along and talk here in person about the appalling events that resulted in the loss of life of my constituent, Natalie Connolly. The Natalie Connolly case is well known, has already been spoken about by the Honourable Member for Peckham and Camberwell. But it is worth rehashing what happened to Natalie. Natalie was a very run-of-the-mill girl who came from my constituency in Kidderminster, and she took up in early 2016 with John Broadhurst. John Broadhurst is a successful property man, a millionaire, and quite presumably, potentially quite a big catch for someone like Natalie. During the course of their 7-month relationship, Natalie displayed many of those signs that demonstrate domestic abuse. Her effervescent character became less and less bubbly, and she started wearing more concealing clothes as the bruises across her body became more and more profound. She revealed to her sister that John Broadhurst was into dominating type of sexual activities, and it became very apparent that Natalie was suffering a lot of abuse, including profound sexual abuse. Late 2016, Natalie, after a party going out with John Broadhurst, tragically died, and she died at the bottom of the stairs in their house. She was covered in what turned out to be 40 injuries. Some of those injuries were profoundly brutal, profoundly intimate, and, as it turned out, very extensive. They'd had a very horrible afternoon. The following morning, John Broadhurst came downstairs at 6 o'clock in the morning, stepped across Natalie's lifeless body on a number of occasions. He went and had breakfast, he washed his car, and then he called the emergency services to see what they could do for her. It was horrific for the families, you can imagine, but to make it even more horrific, Broadhurst called Natalie's father the following day in some sort of horrific, possible misogynistic attempted pact to say that the boys could sort it out. What sort of man was this? Similarly, her sister, Gemma, was asked to go and identify the body in a formal identification. Her nose had to be put back together with straws because it had been crushed, and the side of her face had collapsed because of a shattered eye socket. The problem was John Broadhurst was charged with murder, as you quite understand, but the trial didn't work to Natalie's advantage. There were 3 problems. The prosecution case was one that was protracted in terms of responding to the defence case rather than prosecuting a sound case. In the end, the prosecuting barrister reduced the sentence, or the prosecution case, from murder to manslaughter by negligence, as he felt it was more certain that he would get a conviction. Secondly, the defence centred around the rough sex gone wrong defence. How can it possibly be the case that somebody dies through sex? It just doesn't make any sense. This is wrong, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is completely wrong, and that is why the member for Camberwell and Peckham and I have been working so hard to try to right this wrong that happened to Natalie. But the third problem with this was that John Broadhurst traduced her reputation after she died. He conducted post-mortem abuse, having abused her for the last 7 months. It is appalling that this happened. If you are a rape victim, you are offered anonymity during the course of that trial. The fact that Natalie was dead shouldn't mean that she should have this post-mortem abuse. So there are 3 amendments that the Honourable Member for Peckham and I would like to table, and we are proposing to table them. The first is to ensure that there are no errors of judgment by the prosecuting barrister. We want to, any potential dropping of the charge by the prosecuting barrister needs to be checked by the Director of Public Prosecutions or a peer review. The second amendment looks at the defence of rough sex gone wrong has got to be stopped once and for all. The third amendment seeks to stop this idea of post-mortem abuse suffered by Natalie. This could be reporting restrictions by the judge. Now, the 2 of us do recognise, having spoken at length to ministers on this, that these are not necessarily good pieces of law. It is very, very difficult, and we do understand there are issues with this. And that is why I would want to stress to the front bench that these are probing amendments. But I would, in the last few minutes that I've got to finish up here, just like to say that as a backbencher that I've been here for 10 years, I have never found a more engaging front bench when it comes to talking about this type of thing. The honourable member for Cheltenham, who's in his place at the moment, has been phenomenally helpful in terms of talking about the anonymity piece, the Justice Secretary. But finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, the member for Louth and Horncastle has visited the family. She has been an astonishing individual. Thank you for your indulgence. Allow me to go a few seconds over.
Thank you.